Hey everyone, today I wanted to discuss perks that completely failed in their purpose. Perks that were meant to fulfill a role but ultimately just don't achieve what they are aiming to do. They aren't necessarily all going to be bad either, they just fail at what they are meant to be. This is just my opinion, of course. Really, perks don't have a designated purpose, so this is of course always up for debate whether they do fulfill their role or not. Corrective Action is a perk that's meant to help you help support likely new teammates. This perk makes it so when you're working on a generator with someone, if they miss a skill check, the gen doesn't explode, but instead one of your perk's tokens are consumed. You can gain tokens by hitting great skill checks yourself, up to a total of 5. This perk for me fails at its function because it requires so many specific circumstances to be met. Then further, it doesn't really allow the person who needs to learn, compared to say a perk like Technician. Sure, you fail the skill check, and it makes no noise, but you do lose generator progress. It's an exchange. Here there's a likely chance someone new just doesn't even realize they missed the skill check. They don't really learn anything. It's also a perk that requires you to always stick with another person, which isn't always possible. It's only really useful, I would say, when playing with a new friend or someone to the game, because otherwise you're queuing with people your own MMR. The purpose of this perk feels misplaced, and I can say from personally using it in my normal solo queue games, I've consumed maybe a token 1 or 2 times. Next up, I want to cover somewhat of a double whammy, which is the teamwork perks. You might not even know what these are. It's the newest perk type we've had, but no one uses them. Teamwork Power of 2 and Teamwork Collective Stealth. These two perks are somewhat of an offshoot of the perk Blood Pact. They work only when you're close to another teammate. Unlike Blood Pact though, they don't feel that useful or even fun really. Blood Pact fills a unique role, but I actually think it's fairly okay in terms of it fulfilling its purpose. It's also meant to be more of a fun perk, I think. These two teamwork perks largely just make you feel inefficient. Collective Stealth activates when a survivor heals you, which is a pretty bad start, I think, activating on an action you can't really control. Power of 2 activates when you heal someone else. After this, the perks are now active when you remain within a 12-meter range of the person you healed or healed you, and so long as one of you doesn't lose a health state. Collective Stealth gives the effect of removing scratch marks. Power of 2 gives you a 5% boost to haste. These are really bad and don't make you more efficient by staying together. If it was like extra gen speed or something, it kind of works, but in this case it just doesn't really, especially as you lose the effect if either of you are found and hit. It's a clunky mechanic that kind of works well for the gimmicky and niche Blood Pact, but here the purpose just isn't fulfilled, I think. To make you more efficient and work as a team, it bands you together and applies a tiny bonus in each case that can be stricken away by simply straying from one another for like a second or two, or just being found. These perks to me fail at their core purpose. Perks that encourage teamwork are nice. These perks kind of just force you to awkwardly stay too close to one another to receive an incredibly mild effect. Boon Dark Theory failed in my opinion due to it being a boon partly. It fails I think because of its restriction to be the same radius as the other two boons. Dark Theory is a perk that when you bless a totem, within 24 meters you'll move 2% faster. Due to small boon radius, however, this perk is rarely useful. In the case of Dark Theory, this movement is going to be most useful in chase. However, when in chase, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to leave the area fairly quickly. Paired with this, Dark Theory has a tiny 2% bonus, which isn't a lot, and is even lower than a perk like made for this. Dark Theory is also the least useful of the boons when it comes to its ability to be set up and then serve a purpose. You don't know when a chase is going to start, so it's unlikely that you're going to get value from it unless you constantly move it wherever you go. I think quite simply the pairing of additional speed, but only within a certain area of the map, and a small one at that, simply doesn't work well. This paired with the tiny 2%, which is unlikely to get buffed. Made for this, a perk with a 3% boost may seem like a similar deal, but with that you can use it anywhere. The prerequisite simply is you have to be injured. A speed boost this small is largely only useful over a long period of time, a longer chase. Dark Theory, in my opinion, fails its purpose for that reason. Empathic Connection is a healing and altruism-based perk. This perk activates whenever a teammate is injured. When they are injured, if they are within 96 meters of you, they will be able to see your aura. During this time too, you gain a 10% boost to healing speeds. This perk fails for me because it feels like the purpose is efficiency. My issue with it personally is that it isn't really that efficient aside a few scenarios. It's better in my opinion to either have the person who wants to do the healing get an aura read or healing boost, or alternately to have the person who wants to be healed simply seal survivors. Having it work in this strange dynamic where it kind of combines the two just really overcomplicates things. Not only this, but the person who wants to do the healing also can't see the person that wants to be healed, making it so they could very easily run away whilst they're trying to get to them. It's just a bit silly. All this bear in mind for a 10% boost to heal speed, which knocks off 1.6 seconds. Counterforce, in my opinion, is a perk that completely failed. This perk is meant to allow you to quickly get rid of all totems on the map. It gives you a 20% bonus to totem break speed, and reveals a totem the farthest away from you when you do so. For each totem you gain an additional 20% speed. This fails for a simple reason, I think, and that's simply the fact that it's inefficient. Admittedly, in this case it may depend on what you think the purpose of it is. For me, the point of the perk is to get rid of all of the totems, due to the stacking and stuff, and in that way, I think it completely fails to do that effectively. This perk is pretty bad for other reasons, but it fails more so because it seems to purposefully extend the time taken to destroy totems, even when the point of the perk is to speed it up. Revealing a totem the farthest away is just a distraction a lot of the time, and actively encourages you to go there and get it. Nowadays you don't need to cleanse all of the totems a lot of the time, so you often want the totems up. Even in cases with no ed, it's better to just use the perk's in-game effect once it procs. The additional speed when breaking totems is nice for sure, but I feel the purpose of breaking all totems available has the perk kind of work against you by revealing the furthest aura. Red Herring fails, I think, because it's a distraction perk that kind of distracts the killer toward the main objectives instead of away from them. It's kind of strange for that. Red Herring allows you to briefly work on a gen, enter a locker, and then create a fake noise notification on the gen you were on, ideally baiting the killer to that location. Often though, the question here is, why? This is pretty terrible, but really it's not effective as a distraction perk because it distracts in the wrong places. Diversion isn't a good perk, but it can be thrown anywhere, allowing a lot of freedom over the potential distraction. Deception allows you to fake enter a locker, a place which the killer has to waste time and search. In both instances, it makes the killer have to investigate something away from objectives and survivors, pulling them into the generators and potentially teammates who could have come across the gen you were on is just awful. Functionally it's a bad perk, but it also didn't fulfill the role it's supposed to for me. Visionary ultimately fails at its purpose, primarily because it deactivates when you need it. This perk is used to locate generators. It works a bit like Bond. You can see generators in a 32 meter range, allowing you to easily locate them and continue your productivity. However, the thing that makes this perk bad, where otherwise it could be fairly useful, is that it deactivates whenever you complete a generator, basically halting your productivity. To me, this kind of means it completely fails at what it's meant to do, a perk to find generators that blocks its own ability when you need to find your next generator the most. It's kind of strange for that. There's much better alternatives too that can work in more natural gameplay, such as Detective's Hunch or Deja Vu. Quick Gambit is a perk that tries to encourage you to loop around your teammates on generators. This perk activates when in chase and when you're 24 meters within a generator's radius. So long as chase persists, the people on the nearby gen receive an 8% boost to gen speeds. The issue here of course is that if you run a killer nearby a gen, they're probably gonna go stop the gen and hit the stationary survivor over the moving one, and stop the game's main objective in the process. It's meant to be a high risk, high reward for looping close by to gens, but it just doesn't achieve this, and also it's often just awkward to loop so closely to a gen. It doesn't hinge on the survivor's efficient looping like the perk name suggests, it hinges more on the killer's awareness of the situation. It's a perk you don't really have control over, and can can often lead to you just kind of exposing your team. A good way to alter this, I think, would be to actually make it rewarding when you distract the killer for longer periods. Maybe whenever you get in chase, the last gen you worked on now gets boosted with a higher repair rate for the duration of your chase. Even if it's something like a 5% boost, this would make a rewarding perk that gives you value for looping well, and actually plays into the perk's description. Finally, I wanted to discuss Poised. Poised is a perk that to me seems like it wants to give you some stealth after completing a generator, allowing you to get away before the killer arrives by giving you a 10-second duration of no scratch marks. There are a few issues with this one, however. For one, if the killer is far away, by the time they get to the gen, they're probably not going to know where you've gone anyway. Equally, if they're too close, they can likely see or hear you. Therefore, this perk works in the sweet spot of around a mid-range away. Even then, it relies on the killer actually investigating the area to begin with. This again could often lead to them just seeing you regardless. A 10-second duration isn't that long really. What's more is the perk will often go off at times when it's not helpful, which kind of defeats the purpose. Sure, there's times it can be helpful, randomly activating in chase, but most of the time you could be randomly running somewhere, or sitting on a gen yourself when you get this bonus. This stealth tie to a generator completion is just a bit odd. Now, say something like additional speed to get between gens efficiently, or away from an approaching killer, sure, but lack of scratch marks, it's just a very bizarre combination, and ultimately the perk fails at its core, I think, because of this. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know what perks you think failed completely down below. Thanks, and goodbye.